we're going to go out to Pennsylvania and talk with Art. He, him wants to talk about the ultimate ground of existence being God. So kind of similar to the last one. What's up, Art? You're chatting with Jim and SR.
Hi, Jim and SR.
Hey.
I called in wanting to talk about that, but then you guys talked about hell. So I'm going to leave it up to you. Would you rather me talk about ultimate ground of existence or hell?
Well, we did screen you on the ultimate ground of existence. We always like to be kind to them. So let's start with that one. And if it goes well, and we got some time, Art, let's touch on some hell stuff. I always love talking about hell.
Okay, cool. The idea is that I regard God as ultimate ground of existence.
Okay.
To unpack that, I would define what I mean by ultimate ground of existence. Number one, I would discuss if the concept, which I've defined, refers to anything real. That would be number two. And number three, I would justify or give my reasons for calling it God. So I can do that.
I think the beginning, which would be helpful for me, is just establishing what you mean by the ultimate ground of existence.
Sure. The idea is that a table's made of wood, so it depends on the wood for its existence. The wood could exist without the table existing. So the wood is the ground of existence of the table.
Sure.
The wood exists because of the molecules. The molecules exist because of the atoms. You eventually get down to the 17 elementary particles of the standard model. Now, the idea is that the trajectory of science is moving towards the one. We have innumerable blades of grass.
Wait. Hold up, Art.
Yeah, you just lost me.
Yeah. I'm worried we're going to go down a little bit of a different path. Let me maybe ask a couple of questions to help clarify.
Sure.
You said we got a wooden table. The wood is the grounding of the existence of that table. Did that table have to exist? Was it necessary? Is it a requirement that table?
No, I'm not talking about.
Okay, well, hang on.
Existence.
Yeah, but hang on, because I think this might help myself at the very least for sure. Did that wood have to exist?
No.
Okay, cool. And we can just keep going back. I'm not gonna walk us through it like this. But
you lost me when you went from the 17 particles.
Yeah.
To science is moving to the one, and I'm like,
yeah, I'm confused on that too.
All of a sudden, I'm taking back to Babylon 5.
but real quick, Jim. So I'm not gonna go all the way back to the atoms and whatever. Not gonna do all of that. But like, does existence have to exist? I guess is what comes to my mind. Like, so
No.
It seems to me if there's an ultimate ground of existence, what you're saying is that non-existence or like pure philosophical nothing is possible. Is that the stance you take?
No. What I'm saying is, we know the universe exists.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Okay, I'm saying that my hypothesis is that it is a manifestation of one thing.
Yeah, I get that. But hang on. I think you've already taken a massive step, Art, that we don't have justification to take yet. So let's stay with just existence. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong here. Is it a true dichotomy? Exist, not exist? Is that a true dichotomy? Is there any other option there?
I don't think there is, no.
I don't either. Is it possible for non-existence in this capacity that we're trying to talk about? Yes, we exist currently. Okay, fair enough. The question on the table, I think, is really, is non-existence, is true nothingness possible? Could that be? Could it be the case that not only do I not exist and Jim's white pencil not exist, but nothing exists? There is absolutely nothing. Is that possible in your eyes?
In my eyes, I don't know.
Okay, so then it kind of sounds like this there needs to be an ultimate ground of existence may not be the case. Because if it's not possible for non-existence to ever be a thing to begin with, then existence always has to be, right?
Well, that's fine, but we know that things exist.
So then no grounding of existence in that construction, right? There's
No,
no need to figure that out, right? There's nothing there that grounds that existence because there couldn't be any other choice. Existence in and of itself is necessary.
um, if you want to say it's necessary, that's fine. That's not my point. My point is seeing everything. What I'm saying is everything can be pictured as a manifestation of one thing. Now, science has not gotten to one thing, but science is moving that way in the sense that you reduce the multiplicity of the universe to, I read once there are 10,000 different molecules on Earth. That goes down to 100 atoms. That goes down to 17 elementary particles.
You're talking about
Right.
types.
Science,
You're talking about categories. You're
Huh?
not saying there's only like 10,000 molecules. You're saying there's like 10,000 categories of different molecules, right?
Well,
Yeah, so the entire universe is made up of 17 particles. Okay, fine, we're there. Let's assume that's true. So
Okay.
what? How do you get to God?
Okay, so I'm getting there. So now, the hypothesis is that eventually we're going to find it's a manifestation of one thing. Now,
Okay, how do you prove? How do you
How do we get
disprove that?
well, you disprove that if science had gotten to atoms and atoms were not, if you weren't able to split atoms and science had said for the past century, the universe is atoms in the void and there's 100 different kinds, roughly 100 different kinds of atoms. If that's where science had stopped, that would be a disproof. You'd say the universe is not a manifestation of one
Okay,
thing.
then why isn't the 17 particles, why is the 17 quantum fields not the same thing it was as you just said for atoms?
That's exactly right. I'm saying my hypothesis is that there is one. Science does not say that there is one. I mean, if it did, we'd all know it, I guess.
Well, okay, let's assume that they say, no, that's all one part. It really is only one wave. We just see 17 frequencies. What does that do for you? What does that do for your concept of God?
My concept of God is based on the idea that there is one ultimate ground of existence. That might be wrong.
I just granted you, let's assume for a moment that there isn't 17 different particles or 17 different waves, that they're all there's 17 different frequencies of one wave. There's one thing. How does that get me to God?
Okay. Well, let me give you a few quotes here, if you don't mind. Paul Tillich.
I kind of do. Yeah, hang on. I kind of do mind about the quotes. Hang on. I just want to explain though, Art, so that it just doesn't sound like I'm hand waving them away. If I responded to you by saying, hey, here's a quote from somebody a long time ago that says, whatever Art says next is dumb. Don't listen to him. You'd obviously, rightfully wave that away because it's like, yeah, I don't really care what that person says, right? Unless they could demonstrate, for instance, like that you have been proven to be a liar, which I don't think is the case, Art. I think you're being very honest and genuine with us here. So yeah, we don't need to appeal to quotes of what really smart people said. Let's just go look at the stuff that they're actually able to demonstrate to us.
And also, you've mentioned science, so you should be quoting studies. I mean, if you're quoting a study, that's fine. If you're going to quote a set of physics laws, I'm okay with that. But the question is, if I grant that the 17 quantum particles are actually one, how do I get to God? Your answer is, let me give you a bunch of quotes. You understand why I'm kind of like, I don't care, right?
I accept that. My bad. I accept it. The point is that in theology, there are theologians in many religions who say God is ultimate, that they say God is subsistent being itself. God is in non-dual Vedanta, it is Brahman, which is specifically the basis of everything that's taught in Vedanta. What I'm saying now, Jim, is that in theology, in religions, they say that there is one ultimate ground. That is
Right.
not.
Now,
that is
my
not
my
your
problem with
ultimate.
before you go any further, right? Because I had a problem
Yep.
when you started with the word theology, and I let you go to try and finish your thought.
Yeah.
But when you say theology, I hear fiction author.
Mhm.
And so you've just said that a bunch of fiction authors say everything is one. And I have completely
Right.
stopped caring at that point. I don't care what theologists say. I will care what a theologist says when one of them proves God exists. And you haven't done that yet. I don't care if all of them say, or some of them say, there is one thing. And the reason that I don't is because ideas travel around the world. And so just because a bunch of religions say the same thing doesn't mean they're all saying something that's true. That just means an idea has permeated that far, right? Because when it comes to theology, the problem we have is how do we know any of it's true?
Well, Jim, you had hypothetically granted that there is one thing.
Yes.
Now, and then you said, what is the justification for calling it God? Well, if theologians say God.
No, I said, how do you get to God? How do you get to God, right? That's a slightly different question, but go ahead.
I'm saying that if science, let's suppose, just to make it clear, let's suppose science had proven that there was one thing. Let's just suppose that.
Okay.
And let's suppose
I've granted that. Yep.
Okay. And let's suppose theologians for 2 millennia have been saying there is one thing underlying the universe.
Why do I care? Why do I care what theologians say about science? Because theology's got to prove there's a God. They haven't done it.
Mhm.
And just because you have two coincidences doesn't mean that correlation is not causation. You got two things that are correlated. Science says there's one thing and theology says one thing. Doesn't mean anything, doesn't have any type of causal thing. You still haven't proven God because what you haven't done, you have to do is eliminate a natural cause. Until you eliminate that natural cause, you can't, I mean, you've got to either prove that God did it and by proving God exists, or you have to eliminate all natural causes.
Okay.
Theology has nothing to do with it.
Right. Okay. I think I can address that. It goes down to our definition of God. Now, I'm going to maintain that God is a subjective term. Now, what I mean by that is that if I say a woman is a certain weight, a certain height, certain hair color, that's objective. If I say a woman is a real beauty, that's subjective. Now, God, I am claiming, is used subjectively to talk about something which is ultimate, which is
okay, that's fine. But
So
is the ultimate
you-
hang on real quick, Art, because if your God is subjective, then basically what you're saying is my God is just a thought. Jim and I probably aren't gonna push back on that. Like, yeah, God exists in that
your
people
God could be
think
completely
of.
natural
Yeah.
causes, right? Your God could be completely natural causes, which would not be the God of any theological stance, right? So your theological thing is even more dead on a doornail than it was before by your own stance.
It's
And
worse than
perfectly not.
deism.
Yeah,
No,
it's
that's
worse
probably
than
not true. It's
deism. It's not
probably
even.
not. Deism is really bad, but
Yeah, but I mean, it's not even. It's not pantheism. It's not the God of
Right.
Spinoza. Your
Right.
God is a perfectly natural happenstance.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
The
And
God
you're
of-
just
the God
adding
of
on these other
Spinoza-
characteristics that make you feel good, but the justification for adding on
No.
those characteristics isn't there.
This is the God of Spinoza.
Okay, well then
Spinoza believed there was one
yeah,
substance.
but Art, but hang on, Art. If that's what your God is functionally the exact same as existence, which is problematic, not for me as the non-believer in your version of God, but as you, the person who wants to then add on these characteristics and come to various conclusions based on this thing. But when at the end of the day, you're just saying, nah, I mean, like what I'm talking about is God is just like, matter and energy and all of the stuff around us. It's like, well, yeah, man, we're on the same page that stuff exists, but you're in the boat now of pointing out a cup with liquid in it and saying, I call that a car. And I'm like, why? Why would you do that? How is that more clarity? How is that helpful? How does that not lead to problems in terms of us actually functioning in the world around us? If that's all your God is worthless. And it's not something that you can ever really come to any conclusions on because all you have to play with is all the same stuff that we do. Uh, uh, the issue, though, is that that's not where you stop. That's not where you stop. You don't just stop with, yeah, existence is a thing. If that's all you said, then it'd be like, okay, cool. No, you add extra attributes onto it. Like, does your God care about lying? Does your God care about murder? What about adultery? Because a lot of people's gods do. And if your God is just the same as existence, then just show me an atom that gives a shit about who I fuck. That like do you see the frustration that I have with a lot of these types of versions of a god?
Well, I do. I do. This, um, the idea is the ultimate ground of existence. The idea is similar to when you dream, and you dream of a car, a house, a person, the ground of those things is your own mind stuff. Like if you dream of a table, the table isn't made of wood, it's made of your mind stuff.
I think
With
this
this
is I think this is
view,
a problem, is you're collapsing these categories. You're using these terms that are polysemous because that's how all words are, and you're picking one that
yeah,
sort of overlaps with another concept, another word. And what you're doing is you're taking both of those words and those concepts and squishing it into this one little ball. But the problem is that again, no extra clarity is provided in this construction, and b, at worst, it leads to harmful conclusions because we don't know what the fuck we're talking about, man. Because at the end of the day, in that scenario that you just gave, my mind is still
yeah,
not the grounding. My mind is not the grounding of those dreams. You know why? Because my mind
right.
seemingly is contingent. My mind is not necessary. It could not possibly be the objective, ultimate, fundamental grounding of all absolute instantiation of it couldn't possibly. I'm only 29. I didn't exist 50 years ago, man. And so my mind
No,
isn't the grounding of my dreams. What is the grounding, seemingly, is existence, which you already said, hey, man, there may not be a possibility for not real, true non existence. So then it makes this whole conversation about grounding existence pretty worthless, especially if ultimately at the end of the day, all you're saying is, my God is indistinguishable from just basic existence. It sounds like what you're saying is existence makes existence possible and existence exists, which is like, yeah, I'm with you, bro. But why waste any effort whatsoever calling it a god? Is it just for the community aspect so that you can pat others on the back and say, like, you believe in God, I believe in God. Maybe our gods aren't exactly the same, but at least we're both God believers. Because that I would understand, man. I mean, I completely
yeah,
understand that. That's one of the most basic human things out there. Like, we just want to be around people that like us and agree with us and whatnot. But it
yeah,
just it just
yeah.
feels like there isn't any substance here, and you are twisting yourself into knots to get nowhere. You've ended up at the
Well,
exact same place.
okay. Well, um, in Vedanta, in some versions of Buddhism, the idea is if God is our ground, that the whole bunch of stuff follows from that. For instance, people who want to become realized, self-realized,
Mhm.
want to realize what they are, and some of them
Yeah.
spend their lives going off in
Can
caves
people
to do
can
it.
people do that and
So,
want that and get to that without there actually being a god without there actually being something that people are most people, when they're talking about a God, which I'm putting in quotes right now because I don't think that concept is
Yeah.
super well defined, but most people are talking about supernatural, which is also in quotes, divinity, which is also in quotes. Okay, so the problem with all of that, man, is just, where are you getting to any of that? How are we getting to any of that? And here's the most important question. If for a second we just go, you know what? Let's give SR his toys this time. And let's just say it abso-freaking-lutely doesn't exist. Are you now telling me it is impossible to get to those things that you were just mentioning? Could people not be realized in that world too? Is it not possible that out of the billions of people that have existed on this earth, they've all been freaking wrong about the actual existence of a deity, and instead, the thought that the deity exists allows them to reach these same conclusions? Is that possible in your eyes? Because I'll just be honest, man. If you say yes, it makes your concept of a god that much more unimpressive. It makes that god even less explanatory.
Well, is it possible for people to be mistaken? Of course.
Yeah, you're right. And still get to conclusions. It is possible that I look at a calculus problem and go, 2, and that's the right answer. But then when somebody comes up to me and says, hey, man, how'd you get this? And I was like, well, I don't know. I used a derivative of f of whatever and just added like 12 and we got to 2. So it's possible that I get to the right conclusion, right? Quote unquote, the right conclusion, the same conclusion that you just brought up to me, and just be wrong about the starting point. Like, so again, it doesn't feel like there's much substance to this, I guess is why I'm having difficulty, Art.
Well, okay, I'll just leave it as there are religions that talk about self-realization and talk about enlightenment and talk about God as ultimate ground of existence. And because there's only one universe, I equate that with I'm trying to say that science is going towards the same direction. But I would also say that supernatural is a vacuous term. We have no way of determining if anything is outside of nature.
Why do you think, hang on, real quick, Art. Why do you think the term supernatural is vacuous, but your term God has more clarity? What is the thing that is not equal on these two sides of the scale here? I agree with you on the supernatural. You said, hey man, that's vacuous. There ain't shit behind that. I'm like, yep, I'm with you. But then you present this other understanding, this other concept over here of God. What is the substance behind that makes that more palatable and clarifying for you than the vacuous term? What is the differentiation there, man? Because I'm not seeing any.
Okay, well, the differentiation is something I already mentioned. I believe, I maintain that the word God is used to refer to what a person considers ultimate and worthy of veneration. And
so it's circular. So it's completely circular. You're saying by definition, this thing is the grounding because by definition, this thing is the grounding.
No.
That's what it sounds like.
No. I'm saying, look, if a Muslim converts to Christianity, they begin to regard Jesus as God. If a Christian converts to Islam, they cease to regard Jesus as God. What you or me or Jim or anyone regard as God is up to us. Some people will say God is love, and they will mean that literally. For them, that is ultimate. That
now we've gone back to, I've granted you that 17 particles are really one particle. How do you get to God? And now you're on this. Everybody's definition of God is whatever they want it to be, and it has no grounding in anything. And you're saying that theology seems to be going the same way as science. And I would just like to point out and go back to my original statement. When you say theology, I hear fiction writer. When you say that theology says there's one thing and science is headed that direction, what I hear is Star Trek predicted tablets and the iPhone. right? Because that's exactly what happened.
There's actually more
And
justification for that, though, Jim. Like,
well,
there's actually more justification.
we'll go into
I
that,
know we're not going
right?
to do that today.
Yeah. So I mean, you have done nothing here but go round in circles and attempt to define your way into a God, and you've left science completely behind, right?
Okay, we can leave it at that if you want to. I mean, I don't want to keep.
Yeah.
I think.
Now, if you want to,
go ahead. Go ahead, Art.
I was going to say, if you want to grant me a little bit about hell, I think you'll like what I have to say about that much more.
No.
So
no.
I would so love to, Art. We've already been on this call for 25 minutes and I got a bunch of other calls. But here's what I'll tell you to do, man. I know both myself and Jim are going to be back on in the next couple of weeks. I mean, don't not call into the other hosts because they're also pretty cool too. I mean, Johnny, we never know. But no, they're great too. But seriously, Art, I enjoyed this conversation. I thought it was really good, man. I did feel like we made some progress, even though maybe not, all of the progress I wanted to make. But I really do. I think this was it was a good call. It was genuine. I feel like there is potential for us to really hash stuff out even more in the future. So definitely, man, give us a call back. Seriously. I think that was a good call. I really do. I still, I really have some problems with I have some problems with the deism and pantheism and the Spinoza, Einstein's God stuff. It does. I'll be honest. It does get under my skin a little. It really does.
Yeah, you can't get to any God concept by any religion from Spinoza's God. I just don't see how you do it.
And it's
you got a lot of work to do.
We just end up, I feel like spinning our wheels so hard and we put so much freaking effort into it. And then at the end of it, like, we're literally in the same boat. We're in the same boat of just like both people came to the conversation being like, well, we're probably real. I mean, sure, like, don't have an answer to hard solipsism, don't have an answer to like laws of logic, like, fine, but we just accept that and we move on, and it's like, okay, so we're here, we agree on that, and then we go all the way around to get back to, well, we're here and we agree on that. You just keep wanting to use a different term that I think has a lot of baggage to it that makes it worse.
Right. Because we haven't gotten to whether or not the Spinoza's God has willpower or anything else, right? What's the difference between Spinoza's God and a hurricane?
Right. Yeah. How do you tell the difference? And so now are you in the boat of saying that all the terrible stuff that happens in the world is actually Spinoza's God's plan? Like this hurricane just came through and destroyed your whole town. Like, too bad, because that's God's plan. Like, I don't know. It just brings up problems.